Most hallways in our homes, they are just spaces that we walk through. Just like I'm walking through this hallway from my kitchen to my studio. But as you can see, they don't have to be. In this video, we will look at how to elevate our hallways to make them both beautiful and functional. Hi, I'm Valerie. If this is your first time here, I hope it won't be your last. Let's get started. So, as I mentioned, this is a hallway that adjoins my kitchen to my studio, and off over here we have our laundry room, right? So what I have done here is use this hallway as an extension of our kitchen, right? So here I have a curio cabinet. It's more like a buffet, which I picked up at a as-is department store. And I use it to house all our extra glasses. Well, some, because some's in the dining room, right? But I use it to house extra glasses, china, platters, stuff that we use in the kitchen, right? And then at the top here, I have added 2 small cabinets that I thrifted at a garage sale. It didn't come with this at all. I just put them together, but it's okay because things don't have to match. We are not trying to match here. We're trying to coordinate, and we are trying to create a space that is functional. Plus, my home is a country farmhouse home. Right now we're in the countryside. We just had like an ice storm, and we don't even have electricity. We haven't had electricity now for more than a day, and I'm not quite sure when it's coming back. So I just set up some lights so I could continue with my work, guys. So thank you for being here. But let's get back to what we're talking about here. This cabinet is housing all the glassware and stuff. These cabinets at the top, they are housing food, actually food that we have bought kind of like in excess. Most of the food that I keep here are like seasonings and like canned coconut milk and like tin fish and stuff like that. So this creates so much extra storage. And in the middle here, I have a little dehydrator. I have a bread baker thingy. Yeah, and so instead of leaving this area bare and just walk back and forth when we have so much space that we can use, we are making it functional. Now, I must say off the top that your hallway standard should be at least 36 inches wide. It can be anywhere from 36 upwards, right? But 36 inches, you want to give yourself space to be able to move back and forth. This hallway is 5 feet. So we have 2 feet here that we could have used and then still have 3 feet. But standard is not always standard, because the home that we sold in the city, our hallway was probably about 30 inches wide. And it was an older house. And so not all hallways are this big. However, there is always something that you can do in those hallways to make them, a little elevated, beautiful, and also functional. So let's get into some other functions that we can use our hallways for in our homes. Wait, before we leave, not only is the hallway an overflow of my kitchen or an extension of my kitchen, but it's also an extension of my studio. Because if you're a subscriber or a regular viewer here, you would know that I basically moved in the studio a couple of months or so, and so I had so much coming in that it actually overflowed in this corner right here. So here I have lots of storage for some of my trims and beads and zippers and all that good stuff that you use in doing home decor sewing. A mudroom is an essential place, right, where you can have it almost like a catch-all with storage, just to keep clutter from spreading into the rest of the homes. In mudrooms, you don't have to have elaborate furnishings, right? You can have things like wall hooks for coats and bags and backpacks. You can also have very slimline benches, which houses shoe storage underneath, and slimline cabinets, right? Or cubbies where you can hang jackets and coats. One thing that is essential when you are using a hallway as a mudroom is to make sure you use vertical space. So think about going up the wall instead of spreading out too far into the hallway, especially if it is already a hallway that is not very wide. But yeah, having a mudroom close to your entrance is actually an essential. And we don't use mudroom only to connote the fact that you're coming in with muddy stuff or dirty stuff. It's more like an area where you can sit to put your shoes and your coats on, and you can store items. Office space. That is a very functional thing to do with a hallway that can accommodate it. Now, we can do it on a long wall, or we can even do L-shaped on the long wall and at the end of the hallway, right? It turns unused space into space that can be productive without you having to put your office in a whole room, especially when space is at a premium in your home. Right now, when you're thinking of doing an office space in a hallway, you have to think about using things like floating desk or wall mounted shelf, compact chair or stool, task lighting that can sit on the desk. Also, wall organizers or pegboards, and that is so you can keep your desk clutter free. You also want to think about using vertical space. Instead of spreading out into the hallway, you go up on the wall. You could even use things like, just like you have Murphy beds that pops out of cabinets from the wall, you can use desks like those. If you have a very narrow hallway and you want to use it for an office space, you could get something like that mounted onto your wall so that when it's not in use, you can fold it away. Very slimline, and then you can just put the chair to the side like it's an occasional chair in the hallway. Just put a pillow or two, a throw on it, and style it so it can be made beautiful when it's not in use. Hallways are perfect for a home library because hallways are usually long and linear, and library shelves can usually be long and linear. So that is a perfect combination. And the thing is, you don't even have to make regular book shelving shelves for your books or for your library of books in your hallway. You can use what I refer to as pocket shelving, which means that the shelves are closer to the wall, and the books, instead of showing the spine, you show the front of the book, right? So you just lean it against the wall. And sometimes, depends on how deep you go with those pocket shelving, you can put 2 or 3 books. Similarly to how I actually displayed books in my son's bedroom, because he has a lot of National Geographic and it was too much to make book shelving to show the spines. So I used pocket shelving and show the front of the magazines instead. Now, there are certain key features you want to consider when using hallways as library. One of the things you want to consider is make sure you're using the vertical space. Floor to ceiling shelves is usually very good to do. You may want to also have either a decorative ladder sitting by that you can use to access higher books, or you can actually get ladders installed onto the shelving unit themselves, or you can have step stools, right, for taller shelves, and the step stool can actually sit beside the shelving unit and be something decorative there too in the hallway. We also want to try to integrate some form of lighting. And so, yeah, most hallways will have like a general light, but we can actually get lots of different lighting fixtures that we can use. We can also accommodate lamps, like smaller lamps that you can actually put down on shelves beside the books. Just mix them in, right? Don't just put a wad of book. Make it look pretty. A tip I have for you when installing shelves in the hallway is to paint the shelves the same color as the wall for a cohesive look. The less contrast you can have is the better it will be, especially if the hallway is not extremely wide. If your hallway has a cozy area where you can plug in a lamp, or an area where you have like window that's streaming light in, whether it's on the opposite wall or right by the window, you can put in a cozy reading nook. You don't need a lot for a reading nook. You can get streamlined furnishings that you can use to accommodate that. You can get small benches that you can put under the window or across from the window if it's not allowed for under the window. And then you can have some soft lighting and cushions, throw blankets, and yeah, if you can put in a window bench in a hallway, that is just glorious, because it provides that space that you can feel like you're escaping to, just to sit by the window and read, cuddle with a pillow, look out the window, and just feel at home. Okay, so let's get crafty, because yeah, you can also use your hallway as a craft space, especially if you yourself as an adult is crafty, or you have children and you don't really have the extra space to create a room for them to do crafts, or you want to keep them in close proximity to you when you're out and about doing chores. Crafting space in your hallway is an excellent idea. Just create that creative station for the whole family, maybe. Now, some ideas for creating this crafting space in your hallway is to use furnishings that are slimline, or furnishings that can be fold down, like a fold down craft table, or as I mentioned before, for an office space, you can get like a Murphy desk or workstation that you can fold up and out of the way when it's not in use. You can also have seating that can be folded away when it's not in use, and that is only if your hallway is not very wide, right? Because there can be hallways in homes that can accommodate a craft space without even having to fold anything away. Just keep it clean by having storage where things can be tucked away when they're not in use. use things like pegboards where you can put tools and supplies on. And if you are a person who doesn't like to see all that stuff, then you can actually have the pegboards installed in cupboards so that the doors can be closed when you're done doing your craft, right? So lots of storage, bins and baskets, and also consider lighting, whether it's a desk lamp, a floor lamp, or if you can afford to install light overhead to light the craft space. Your hallway is an ideal place for displaying art and photos. Like you can display family photos on your wall, art prints, prints from your travel, art that you have collected on your travels from thrift store, wherever you collect them, it means something to you. That is why you have collected them. So dust them off and get them up onto your wall. Now, it depends on the design or the decor that you use in your home. If you use a more contemporary or modern look, then you may want to have consistent frames. But if you have a shabby chic, boho chic country farmhouse, even like a coastal design, you don't have to worry too much about matching your photo frames. Make it you, make it yours, and go to town and put up that gallery wall in your hallway, because so many of us leave those walls empty. But the truth is, there are some hallways that are in older homes. As I mentioned about the home we sold in the city, our hallway wasn't even 36 inches wide, right? But the most you can do, or the least you can do, is to add some photos and art on the wall, because not only will it add something to the hallway, it also will add something to the adjoining rooms. Because walking through a bare hallway going into a room, it kind of takes away from what's going on in the room. If the interest starts from the hallway and carries you into the room, then it makes it so much more cozy, cohesive, and complete. Not many of us think of using our hallways as an exercise space, but our hallway, especially in a corner, can become a mini fitness zone. We can install wall mounted storage. We can also install slimline cabinets on the floor that can house things like yoga mats, resistance bands, or small weights. Also, we can install mirrors, pretty much like we install mirrors on our walls in an entranceway. We can do that in our hallways also, because it does actually help to bounce light around too, and to reflect something pleasing. The one thing you want to do when you use your space for an exercise, the hallway for an exercise space, you got to make sure you do wall mounted storage, and storage that will not project too far out into your walkway. Your hallway could be a great spot to set up a pet care area. You can have feeding station at the base of slimline cabinets, and I'm saying slimline especially if your hallway is not very wide, right? You can store things like your leash hooks or just your general pet supply you can store in those cabinets, whether it is built-in cabinet or cabinet that you buy from the store that you can set up. Right now, always remember, go up the wall and use vertical space for your storage. A hallway can be a great place to have a central charging station, especially one that is in close proximity to the living areas, which has outlets or provisions where you can create a charging station. So instead of having your phones and tablets and everything all over the house, you just have a central location which helps to keep the home tidy, and also that everybody will be able to find their stuff when they need them, right? Ain't no searching around to find everything. You can use things like floating shelves or cabinets if you don't like to see everything left out. They can certainly be housed in cabinets, and you can have hidden power strips or built-in outlets, baskets, drawers, whatever you find that is most appropriate for your situation. A sewing station is actually a fantastic idea for your hallway, especially for people who sew but don't have a dedicated sewing room. A hallway can become a compact sewing station where everything you need is organized and ready to be used. Now, some of the key elements that we need to have in a sewing station space are things like a small desk or a desk that you can fold down, or a Murphy desk. You need storage for fabric and thread and tools. And one of the things that you need is good lighting for work, especially when you are doing detail work. Now, some safe spacing ideas we can talk about are wall shelves or pegboards that you can hang your scissors, rulers, threads, and other tools on. And by the way, if you don't want them to show, you can actually put that pegboard into a cabinet so you can close it and forget it. You also need stackable bins or baskets because you want to go up, right? That you can store fabric in. It's always best to remember to use vertical space in your hallways instead of horizontal space, because we don't want to go out into the passageway where we have to use for traffic. A good idea would be to choose a folding or wall mounted table so the walkway stays clear. That is the main piece that you will have for your sewing station, because that's where you'll have to do your cutting and your sewing on. So you want to make sure you choose that wisely. We all need linen storage, right? Hallways near bedrooms or bathrooms are perfect for linen storage. And that is why we put a linen storage closet outside our bathroom and bedrooms on our upstairs when we came here and we were renovating the upstairs, because it means then that your towels, your sheets, your extra blankets, all those stuff that you need in the bathroom and the bedroom are close by. I chose to do a built-in cabinet, right? But you can actually buy cabinets that you can assemble and put in your hallways to house your sheets and all your linens, right? You can also use floating shelves. And if you don't want to have that look where they're just sitting on the floating shelves, you can use baskets to put them all into and put the baskets on the shelves so that they will be stored nicely and neatly, well organized. You can also get slimline closets to buy if you have a smaller space. One tip is that if you use baskets or bins to keep them organized, you label them. You are looking at plants, my friends, because our 14th and final function, that's what we are looking at, because there are myriad of other functions that we could use our hallways for in our homes. But yeah, the final one we're looking at is plant or greenery gallery. If you have a green thumb, excellent. I just love real plants in our homes. Plants can completely change the feel of a hallway, and it can make your home feel alive and welcoming. Not only do plants have aesthetic value, but they do have function, right? Real function. They do things like clean up off gassing from new furnishings like formaldehyde and other gases that are used in new furnishings when they come into our home. And they also provides us with some oxygen, especially if you live in a climate where it is cold, it's winter, and you don't open the windows and stuff. It's always good to have your plants that will absorb carbon dioxide and give us oxygen to help to make our homes fresh and clean and more livable, right? We can put our plants on the wall. That means we can wall mount them on shelves. We can use hanging planters, slim consoles with plants. Let me know, what is your favorite way of displaying your plants in your homes? The one thing we have to be mindful of is the hallway where we're putting the plants. If it is a low light situation, then we have to make sure we choose plants that will tolerate low lighting. This has been so much fun, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I enjoy putting this session together. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop it in the comments and let me hear. If you're here and have not yet subscribed, I appreciate your subscription. Thank you very much. Also, remember to turn on your bell notification so you can be notified of new videos. Until I see you again, take good care. And yeah, drop it in the comments. Let me know how you enjoy the session. Love you guys. Mwah. P.S. The one other thing I wanted to mention, friends, is that we can combine functions. If you look closely at some of the photos that I have included in the session here, you will see that there is more than one function in most of the photos. And so combining functions is one way of actually optimizing the use of our hallways. Catch you later.